From the first chapter of analytical and biomedical instrumentation, I am going to deal with the topic ultraviolet spectrophotometer. Today we are going to deal with the topic ultraviolet spectrophotometer. Upon completion of this presentation, you will be able to understand what is ultraviolet spectroscopy, what is ultraviolet spectrophotometer, the components of ultraviolet spectrophotometer, the construction of an ultraviolet spectrophotometer, the working principle and the applications of ultraviolet spectrophotometers. Upon completion of this presentation, you will be able to understand what is ultraviolet spectroscopy, what is an ultraviolet spectrophotometer, what are the components of ultraviolet spectrophotometer, the construction, the working principle and applications of ultraviolet spectrophotometers. Ultraviolet spectroscopy. Spectroscopy is the measurement and interpretation of electromagnetic radiation absorbed or emitted when the molecules of the atoms or ions of a sample move from one energy state to another energy state. As we well know, spectroscopy is the measurement. It is the measurement and interpretation of electromagnetic radiation absorbed or emitted when the molecules or atoms or ions of a sample moves from one energy state to another energy state. From one energy state to another energy state. We have UV spectroscopy. UV spectroscopy is a type of absorption spectroscopy in which light of ultraviolet region, that is from 200 to 400 nanometer, the range of the ultraviolet wavelength is from 200 to 400 nanometer, is absorbed by the molecules, which results in excitation of the electrons from the ground state to higher energy state. From the ground state to higher energy state. So, ultraviolet spectroscopy, it is nothing but a type of absorption spectroscopy. It is a type of absorption spectroscopy in which light of ultraviolet region is absorbed by the molecules, which result in excitation of electrons from the ground state to higher energy state. From the ground state to higher energy state. So, the general block diagram of any spectrophotometer, it consists of the four blocks which we have learnt earlier. The first one is the chemical information source. Second one is the monochromator. The third one is the signal conditioning element, and the fourth one is your display device. So, in this the general block diagram is your light source that we are using here. Then we have the collimator which renders the radiation coming from the radiant source to be focused onto the monochromator. The monochromator is a device which can be either a prism or a grating. It is a dispersive device which disperses the radiation into the specific wavelength. That's why it's called specific wavelength. We have a wavelength selector is there, the entrance slit, which acts as the wavelength selector. Then the wavelength of specific radiation, the ultraviolet rays, whatever it may be, when we are using a radiant source which emits ultraviolet light, that light is passed to the sample under the sample solution. It is nothing but a cuvette containing the sample. When this radiation of intensity I0, initial radiation, is passed into the sample, this spectroscopy is an absorption spectroscopy. Some of the radiation is absorbed by the sample solution, and the remaining radiation is transmitted. So the intensity of that radiation which is transmitted is made to fall on a detector. The detector is usually a photocell. The detector is usually a photocell which converts the light energy into corresponding electrical energy. After sufficient amplification, that electrical energy produced by the detector is given to the display device, which may be a digital readout device or an analog meter. So this is the basic general block diagram of any spectrophotometer. So we have the chemical information source, that is the light source. The light source emits the radiation, and this radiation is made to focus onto a dispersing medium, which onto a monochromator, which may be monochrome, means it produces light of specific wavelength, spectral wavelength. Okay, so this light energy, when it is passed through the sample after selective distribution of the wavelength, you are going to selectively pass light of specific wavelength into the sample under test. The sample is placed in a cuvette. So when the sample, this ultraviolet spectroscopy, it works on the principle of absorption spectroscopy. So based on the amount or concentration of the sample, the radiation is absorbed by the sample and the remaining radiation is transmitted out. So by measuring the intensity of the radiation which is transmitted using a detector, the detector may be a photocell. So the light radiation falls on the photocell. The photocell converts the light energy into electrical energy, and it produces a signal proportional to the amount of radiation that is being transmitted. And this radiation, this value of the electrical signal can be displayed on the digital display device, or it can be displayed on the analog digital device. So this is the general block diagram of spectrophotometer. Then the next point to discuss is why we use ultraviolet spectroscopy. Why not something else? There is some specific advantages of using ultraviolet spectroscopy. Ultraviolet spectroscopy, why we are using ultraviolet spectroscopy is it is used for detection of functional groups. It is used for detection of functional groups. It is used for detection of impurities. It is used for detection of impurities. Then it is used for qualitative analysis. It is used for qualitative analysis. Then it is used for quantitative analysis also. It is used for quantitative analysis also. Then single compounds without chromophore. It is used for identification of single compounds without chromophore. Chromophore is nothing but a part of a molecule which is responsible for the color, for its color. So it is a part of the molecule which is responsible for the color of that molecule. So it is useful for identification of single compound without chromophore, and drugs with chromophoric reagents. It is used for identification of drugs with chromophoric reagents. It helps to show the relationship between different groups. It is useful to detect the conjunction of compounds. This is why we are using UV spectroscopy. We are using UV spectroscopy. For this reason, UV spectroscopy is widely used. Then, so before going into the detail of what is UV spectroscopy, let us once again, I would like to remind you once again what is UV radiation. We have the electromagnetic spectrum which extends from cosmic rays to radio waves, shortest to longest wavelength. Between the visible radiation is encompassed by ultraviolet and infrared regions. In between the ultraviolet and the infrared region is the visible region. So we know the visible region's bandwidth, which ranges from 3000 angstroms to 7000 angstroms. The region beyond the red is called infrared region. The region beyond the red radiation is called infrared region, while the region beyond violet is called ultraviolet region. The region beyond violet is called ultraviolet region. The wavelength range of UV region starts at blue end of the visible light, that is 4000 angstroms, and ends at 2000 angstroms. It starts at 4000 and ends at 2000 angstroms. So it starts at the blue end of the visible light. So the visible light is visible light towards the one side we have the ultraviolet light and another side we have the infrared light. The region beyond the red is called infrared, while the region beyond violet is called ultraviolet. So the wavelength range of the ultraviolet radiation starts at the blue end of the visible light, that is 4000 angstroms, and ends at 2000 angstroms. It ends at 2000 angstroms. Then coming to the principle of UV spectrometry, principle of ultraviolet spectrometry. Ultraviolet spectrometry is an absorption spectrometry which arises from transition of electrons that means the electrons, when the molecules absorb this radiation, what happens? The electrons in the molecules begin to move from lower energy levels to higher energy levels. So a molecule, when it absorbs ultraviolet radiation of frequency nu, the electron in that molecule, it undergoes a transition. It undergoes a change. What change it undergoes? It undergoes a change in its energy levels. It transits from lower energy level to higher energy level by acquiring that energy. By absorbing the radiation, what does the molecule do? The molecule, it absorbs the radiation, and the electrons present in the molecules, they begin to transit from lower energy levels to higher energy levels. And the energy of that energy of the electron is given by this famous equation E is equal to h nu, where E is the energy in ergs. So E is equal to h nu. E1 minus E0 is equal to h nu, where E is the total energy. Total energy is equal to electronic energy plus vibrational energy and rotational energy. The energies decreases in the following order. Electronic energy is much greater than vibrational energy, which is much greater than rotational energy. So if you represent the transition in the form of a graph, you can observe in this figure, that is, this is the principle of ultraviolet spectrometry. In the ultraviolet spectrometry, what is happening? When a radiation falls on the, when an ultraviolet radiation falls on a substance or a sample under test, what happens? This sample, it contains molecules. The molecules absorb the radiation, and the electrons present in the molecules will change its states from ground state to excited state, from lower energy levels to higher energy levels. So in the figure, in the graph, we have seen there electronic ground state, its energy is E0. Its energy is E0. When it gets excited, what happens? It goes to the higher energy state, that is electronic excited state, E1. So final total change in the energy is equal to E total is equal to E1 minus E0. E1 minus E0. So what is E1? E1 is the excited state. When the electrons get excited and acquire higher energy, the energy of the electron in the higher energy state is E1. Then E0 is the energy of the electron when it is in the stable state. So E total is equal to E1 minus I0. So during the ground state, when it acquires energy, it starts vibrating and it moves to higher energy levels. Thus the energy of the radiation in the visible range is generally 36 to 72 kilocalories per mole, while that in the ultraviolet region is 143 kilocalories per mole. This is the energy liberated. Energy of the radiation in the ultraviolet range is 143 kilocalories per mole. 143 kilocalories per mole. So What is the next topic? So, when a beam of radiant energy, when it strikes the surface of a substance, the radiation interacts with the atoms and molecules of the substance. So, when a beam of radiation, electromagnetic radiation, or when the radiant energy, when it strikes the surface of a substance, when it strikes the surface of a substance, this radiation interacts with the atoms and molecules of the substance. This radiation interacts with the atoms and molecules of the substance. So, the radiation may be either transmitted, or it may be either absorbed or scattered or reflected, depending upon the properties of the substance. So, when a beam of radiant energy, when it strikes the surface of a substance, the radiation interacts with the atoms and molecules of that substance. It interacts. What does the radiation do? It interacts with the molecules and atoms of that substance. And the radiation that strikes that surface, it can either be transmitted or absorbed or scattered, or it may be reflected back depending upon the properties of the substance, So, this is the basic principle of any spectrophotometer. When radiant energy is made to fall on the surface of the substance, the radiation interacts with the atoms and molecules of the substance, and the radiation may be either transmitted or absorbed or scattered, or reflected back depending upon the properties. Thereby, you can study what you are going to do then. After absorption, the molecules, when they get excited from the ground state to a higher energy state, they emit a different radiation. They emit when the molecules or ions move from one energy to another energy. Thereby, you get a spectrum. So, in that way, you can use this spectrophotometers. Then, components of spectrophotometer. What are the components of a spectrophotometer? As we have seen in the first figure which we have observed, we have observed a light source. Then we have a collimator. Then we have a collimator. We have the dispersing medium. Then we have the sample. Then the sample, through the sample, when the radiation falls, you have a detector, photodetector is there, then a recorder. So, the 5 basic components of any spectrophotometer are, the source, the monochromator, the sample compartment, or it is also called as the sample cell or a sample container, then detector and the recorder. You can represent this with a block diagram like this. You have the radiant source, you have the wavelength selector. Just as I told you, we can either use a prism or a grating. In the first figure where we have observed, you have the dispersive medium, the monochromator. That is nothing but a wavelength selector. Then that selector, from the output of that, is passed through the sample or the solvent, and that is the sample is placed in the sample compartment, and this compartment, the output of the sample, output radiation, that is either absorbed from by the material. You are getting the transmitted radiation. That intensity is detected by the photodetector, and then the output of the photodetector is fed to the readout device. So, this is the basic block diagram of the instrumentation of your ultraviolet spectrophotometry. You have the radiant source, you have the wavelength selector, then the sample and the solvent both placed inside the sample compartment, and the output of the sample compartment is nothing but the transmitted radiation that falls on the photodetector detection stage. Then it is sent to the display system, which is nothing but a recorder or a readout device. So, this is a schematic diagram of a UV spectrometer. The schematic diagram of a UV spectrometer. We have the radiation source. The basic components of any spectrophotometer, first one is the light source. First one is the light source or radiant source. Then the second one is the entrance slit. Third one is the dispersing medium or device. Fourth one is the exit slit. Fifth one is the sample, and sixth one is the detector. Okay. So these are the components of basic components of any spectrophotometer, UV spectrophotometer. It consists of the radiant source. Then it consists of the entrance slit. Then it consists of the dispersing device. It may be either a prism or a grating. Then we have the exit slit. The combination of the entrance slit, the dispersing media, which may be either a prism or a grating, and the exit slit together forms the monochromator. Monochromator is a device which produces radiation of specific wavelength. Then we have the sample holder or the sample container, or it is also called as a sample cell, where that is nothing but a cuvette where the sample to be tested is placed. The monochromatic radiation is made to fall on the sample. The sample absorbs the radiation and transmits the remaining radiation. As I told you, any radiant energy falling on a sample, when it interacts with the sample, the radiation may be either transmitted or scattered or absorbed or reflected. So these four cases may occur. The remaining radiation which is transmitted is detected by the detector. So this is the basic schematic diagram of a UV spectrophotometer. So coming to the first term, what is the radiant source? Radiation source or radiant source or light source are all one and the same. The radiation source. It is important that the power of the radiant source does not change abruptly. As you know, the requirements of any radiant source, the output power should not change over its wavelength range. So, okay, the electrical excitation of deuterium or hydrogen at low pressure, you are generally using hydrogen or deuterium lamps are used in this ultraviolet spectrophotometers. The radiation sources are the deuterium and hydrogen lamps, which emit radiation in the range of 160 to 375 nanometers. So it is important that the power of the radiation source does not change abruptly over its wavelength range. The electrical excitation of deuterium or hydrogen at low pressure produces a continuous UV spectrum. Both deuterium and hydrogen lamps emit radiation in the range 160 to 375 nanometers. In the range 160 to 375 nanometers. Both the deuterium and hydrogen lamps, they emit radiation in the range of 160 to 375 nanometers. There are some problems. The problems are due to evaporation of tungsten, life period decreases. Tungsten, the life filament decreases. It is overcome by using tungsten halogen lamps. That's why we are going to use tungsten halogen lamps, which we have already discussed when we were discussing about the different types of light sources. Because of these halogen lamps, in addition to the inert gas which we are using, we are going to fill the envelope with halogen lamps like iodine. So that when the tungsten evaporates, when it sublimates, this iodine recombine with the tungsten and it forms WI2, tungsten iodide. And when it begins to cool on the hot filament, it gets deposited as pure tungsten. In that way, this problem of evaporation of tungsten can be overcome by using tungsten halogen lamps. Halogen gas prevents evaporation of tungsten. That is what is happening when we are using tungsten filament lamps for ultraviolet radiation as an ultraviolet radiation source. We are using hydrogen lamps. We are using deuterium hydrogen lamps to increase the size of the light ball. 3 to 5 times we are using hydrogen in deuterium and hydrogen together. Okay, then coming to the radiation filament radiation source, the tungsten filament and hydrogen deuterium lamps are most widely used. As I told you, these two are the most widely used radiation sources when we are using ultraviolet spectrophotometry. When we are using ultraviolet spectrophotometry, tungsten filament lamps and hydrogen deuterium lamps are most widely used. And the suitable light sources, these are the two suitable light sources which cover the entire range of the UV region. Okay, tungsten filament lamps are rich in red radiation. More specifically, they emit the radiation of 375 nanometers, while the intensity of hydrogen and deuterium lamps fall below 375 nanometers. So, tungsten filaments, when you want red radiation, most specifically they emit the radiation of 375 nanometers. 375 nanometers. This is the first component of the ultraviolet spectrophotometer, that is the radiation source. Then coming to the next component, the monochromata, it is a combination of the entrance slit, the dispersive medium and the exit slit. Monochromata generally is composed of prisms and slits. As I told you, it consists of prism or grating and slits. The two slits are entrance slit and exit slit. Most of the spectrophotometers are double beam spectrophotometers. Most of the UV spectrophotometers are double beam spectrophotometers. The radiation emitted from the primary source is dispersed with the help of rotating prism. The prism acts as the monochromata. The various wavelengths of light source which are separated by the prism are then selected by the slits such that the rotation of the prism results in a series of continuous increasing wavelength to pass through the slits for recording purpose. The beam selected by the slit is monochromatic and further divided into two beams with the help of another prism. With the help of another prism, it can be divided into two beams. It can be divided into two beams with the help of another prism. So, this is the monochromata. All monochromatas contain the following components. You have an entrance slit, you have a dispersing device, it may be a prism or a monochromata. Then we have the focusing lens. Sometimes we use the focusing lens. Here in the figure shows two plano-concavo lenses. Okay, they are the focusing lenses. They allow your radiation to focus onto the prism or the grating. Okay, on the prism or the grating. So, the first one is the entrance slit. Second one is the collimating lens. The concavo-convex plano-concave lens is used to collimate, to make your radiation render parallel. And this radiation falls on the dispersive device, which may be a prism or a grating, for selectivity of your desired wavelength. Then you are having the focusing lens. The second concavo lens, that is called the focusing lens, which allows the radiation emitted by the dispersed media onto the exit slit. We have the exit slit. So, these are the components or the main parts of your monochromatas. Then the next phase is filters. Sometimes we are using filters also to remove the unwanted radiations, whatever unwanted radiations, those radiations which we don't want to interact with the sample. Then we use filters. There are different types of filters are used. Glass filters, which are made from pieces of colored glass, which transmit limited wavelength range of the spectrum. Then wide bandwidth of 150 nanometers. Glass filters are used, made from pieces of colored glass, which transmit limited wavelength range of the spectrum. Then we have gelatin filters, which consists of mixture of dyes placed in gelatin and sandwiched between glass plates. Bandwidth is 25 nanometers. When we use glass filters, the bandwidth is 150 nanometers. When we use gelatin filters, the bandwidth is 25 nanometers. Then we have interferometric filters whose bandwidth is 15 nanometers. Depending upon our requirement of to filter out the unwanted signals, we are going to use the different types of filters. Okay, like glass filters, gelatin filters, and interferometric filters. When we are using glass filters, the bandwidth is 150 nanometers. When you are using gelatin filters, the bandwidth is 25 nanometers. And when we are using interferometric filters, the bandwidth is 15 nanometers. Then we are going to discuss about the prism monochromators, which we are already discussed earlier. It's only just an outline of what we have discussed earlier. Prism monochromators, they bend the monochromatic light. The amount of deviation depends on the wavelength, and they produce non-linear dispersion. Prisms bend the monochromatic light. The amount of deviation on the depends on the wavelength. See in the figure. When you observe the figure, light from the sun is made to fall on the focusing lens. It made to fall on the focusing lens through, and it is this is the radiant source. The sunlight coming from the sun, and through the focusing lens, it is entering the entrance slit. After it enters the entrance slit, that radiation, it is rendered parallel by using the collimating lens. It is rendered parallel, so that the parallel beam of set of two rays, when they fall on the prism, the ray get dispersed, the ray get refracted, or refraction takes place at the surface of the prism, and you get two refracted rays. Okay, you are getting two, when you are using two radiations, you are using two incident lights, two incident rays. When the two rays are refracted based on the principle of refraction, you are getting two rays which are bent away from the normal. And these two rays are again passed to the focusing lens and on to the when they are made to pass through the exit slit, they fall on the detecting screen. When you use a detecting screen, you can observe the visible radiation. It may be either from violet to red. So this is a schematic diagram of the working of the prism. The next phase in your next component of the spectrophotometer is your sample container or sample cells. A variety of sample cells are available for UV region. The choice of the sample cell is based on the path length, shape and size. Okay, it is dependent on the path length, shape and size. You are using a variety of sample cells can be used. Okay, it depends on the path length, its shape and size. The transmission characteristics at the desired wavelength, that is also an important factor. The choice of the sample cell depends upon the transmission characteristics at the desired wavelength, and these are relatively expensive. Okay, these sample cells are relatively expensive. Then the sample container, as I told you, the sample container or the sample cell, the cell holding the sample should be transparent to the wavelength region. It should be transparent to the wavelength region to be recorded. Quartz or fused silica cuvettes, so it is also called, another name for the sample container is the cuvette. So the quartz or fused silica cuvettes are required for spectroscopy in the UV region. So silicate glasses can be used for manufacture of cuvettes. You are going to use quartz or silica. okay, which are used for manufacturing of cuvettes for the use between 350 to 2000 nanometers. The thickness of the cell is generally 1 centimeters, and cells may be rectangular in shape or cylindrical with flat ends. The ends will be flat. They may be rectangular in shape or they may be cylindrical in shape with flat ends, and the cell is generally 1 centimeter thick. It is generally 1 centimeter thick. As you have seen, you can see the structure of the cell. Here you are using, here in the picture we can see there is a cylindrical cell with flat bottom. Cylindrical cell with flat bottom. Okay. So these are the different types of sample cells or sample containers where you are going to hold the sample. The sample containers must be transparent, and also they must be able to should be transparent to the wavelength region to be recorded. Whatever wavelength region it is to be, it can record. That wavelength region, it must be transparent so that it allows that radiation to pass through it. Okay. So silicate glass is generally used and its thickness is 1 centimeter, and the cuvettes for the use between 350 to 2000 nanometers. 350 to 2000 nanometers. Then coming to the detectors. We have seen the first stage is the radiation source, the second stage is the monochromator, the third stage is the sample container, the fourth one is the detector. The detector consists of, there are three common types of detectors used. The first one is the barrier layer cell. The first one is the barrier layer cell. The second one is the photo cell detectors, and the third one is the photomultipliers or photovoltaic cells. Photomultipliers or photovoltaic cells. But generally we most commonly we use photomultipliers. Photomultipliers are most commonly used type of detectors. So the barrier layer cells are, it consists of a flat copper or iron electrode on which semiconductors such as selenium is deposited. On the selenium, a thin layer of silver or gold is spurted over the surface. When light radiation falls on the surface, it absorbs the radiation and it transmits the remaining radiation. By measuring the intensity of the radiation that is being absorbed and that is being transmitted, you can find the relationship you can find the nature of the sample under test. So in this way you can use the different types of detectors. Then we have photomultiplier tubes. Photomultiplier tube, it is generally used as a detector in UV spectrophotometers. It is a combination of, as you know earlier we have seen, it is a combination of several it is a combination of a photodiode, and an electron multiplier. Photodiode and an electron multiplier. We have a photocathode and a series of diodes, and these diodes are finally connected to an anode whose emission of an electron from the photocathode, when it strikes the one diode, it produces several electrons. So for one photon, it produces 107 to 104 to 107 electrons. So secondary emissions begin to take place when these radiations falls on successive diodes. Finally, when it gets accelerated and reaches the anode, the number of electrons are multiplied. So that is why we call it as a photomultiplier. It consists of evacuated tube containing photocathode and 9 to 16 electrodes known as diodes. Okay, this is about your photodetector. Then coming to the double beam ultraviolet spectrophotometer. Single beam and double beam ultraviolet spectrophotometers are there. So in the double beam electromagnetic spectrophotometer, we have the UV source, the radiant source, when this radiation is made to fall onto the monochromator. The monochromator may be a prism or a grating. Then that output of the monochromator passes through the entrance slit and through a slit, and from that slit, from the exit slit, it enters the chopper mirror where the radiation is divided into two beams. That's why it is said to be double beam. We have one the reference cuvette and another one is the sample cuvette. Two cuvettes we are going to use here. One is the upper one is the sample cuvette and the lower one is the reference cuvette. So the radiation coming from the monochromata is passed through the reference cuvette as well as the sample cuvette. Then we have the detector system which compares both the signals coming from the reference cuvette and the sample cuvette, and this output is given to a through the detector. It is given to a display device. So when we see the working of an ultraviolet spectrophotometer, the ultraviolet spectrophotometer consists of a radiant source of hydrogen or deuterium source. It consists of a radiant source. In the block diagram, as we have seen, it consists of a radiant source of hydrogen or deuterium source. The radiation from the source through the condensing lens is made to fall on the focusing lens through the entrance slit. All these parts form the monochromata. In the block diagram we have seen, after the radiance we have the monochromata. In the monochromata we have the condensing lens, we have the entrance slit, we have the exit slit, we have the focusing lens. All the things together form the monochromata. Then the radiation from the light source is passed directly by the means of lens or a mirror into a narrow slit of the monochromata and allowed to fall on the dispersing medium, where it gets isolated. As I told you, this radiation from the light source, it is allowed to fall on the lens or a mirror, and then through the narrow entrance slit it is made to fall on the monochromata. And the monochromata consists of a dispersing media where you are going to use a prism or a grating, and your radiation is isolated, where it gets isolated. Here the dispersing medium is diffraction grating, which we are using. You are using the diffraction grating. After dispersion, the isolated radiation is passed through the cuvette where the sample is held. The upper half of the diagram we have the sample cuvette, where the cuvette containing the sample. The radiation may be either absorbed, scattered or reflected by the sample. This isolated radiation of particular wavelength is selected by a proper filter. So, radiation of specific particular wavelength is selected by a proper filter. Radiation of particular wavelength is selected by a proper filter. This radiation is made to fall upon a photosensitive element, that is your photodetector. After coming from the sample, either the radiation may be absorbed or scattered or reflected by the sample. The isolated radiation of the particular wavelength is selected by a proper filter. This radiation is made to fall upon a photosensitive element in which the light energy is converted into electrical energy, where the light energy is being converted into electrical energy. The electric current produced, then it can be measured with a sensitive galvanometer or directly, or after suitable amplification it can be sent to the readout device. So this is the working principle of your spectrophotometer. In the work, I would like to repeat once again the working principle. What is the working principle? The ultraviolet spectrophotometer consists of, see here in the figure, when we see the figure we can understand it better. We have a light source. The light source is generally hydrogen deuterium lamp or tungsten halogen lamps are used. So when this light source is allowed to pass, when the radiation from the light source, when it is allowed to fall in the focusing lens through the entrance slit, the radiation from the light source directly falls on the monochromata. And when this is allowed to fall on the dispersing media in the monochromata, we have the diffraction grating. So the signal gets diffracted. After dispersion, the isolated radiation, it is passed through the cuvette containing the sample. Then the radiation, it may be either absorbed or scattered or reflected by the sample. This isolated radiation of particular wavelength, after passing to the sample, you will get isolated radiation of particular wavelength, is selected by a proper filter. This radiation, when it is made to fall upon a photosensitive element, Okay, the detector contains a photosensitive element. When this is made to fall upon a photosensitive element in which the light energy is converted into electrical energy. The electric current produced can be measured. The electric current produced by the detector, photodetector, it can be measured with a sensitive galvanometer or any other readout device after suitable amplification. So this is about your working principle of your spectrophotometer. Working principle of spectrophotometer. Coming to the applications. Applications where ultraviolet spectroscopy is most used. The qualitative analysis. It is used in the qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis of ultraviolet absorption spectroscopy can characterize those type of compounds which absorb UV radiation. Okay, it can characterize the substances which can absorb UV radiation. Identification is done by comparing the absorption spectrum with the spectrum of known compounds. If you know, if you want to identify the compound which absorbs ultraviolet radiation, which compound, by already you have a standard with which you compare. You have the spectra for known compounds. When you observe the spectra which is being tested and the standard, when you observe those two, you can identify the component present in the sample. In that way, it is used for qualitative analysis. It is used in quantitative analysis also. It is useful in quantitative analysis of the compounds. It is used in quantitative analysis of the compounds. Then third one, detection of impurities. It is helpful in detection of impurities. UV absorption spectroscopy is one of the best method for detecting impurities in organic compounds. So it is used in qualitative analysis, is used in quantitative analysis, it is used for detection of impurities. Detection of impurities. UV absorption spectroscopy is one of the best method for detecting impurities in an organic compound. Tautometric Merrick equilibriums, UV spectroscopy can be used to determine the percentage of various keto and enols forms present in the tautometric equilibrium. The various ketos and enols which you are studying in inorganic chemistry, they will be you can use this ultraviolet spectroscopy to determine the percentage of various keto and enol forms present in the tautometric equilibriums. Then the fifth one is, it is useful in chemical kinetics. UV spectroscopy can be used to study the kinetics of reactions, chemical kinetics. Okay, it can be used to study the kinetics of the reactions, chemical kinetics they are called. Then it can be used to determine the molecular weight. Okay, it is used to determine the molecular weight of the compounds. Can be measured using this spectroscopy. It is used for analysis of inorganic compounds. It is used for measuring concentration of solutions. Absorption band can also be used to determine the concentration of compounds in a solution. So it can be used in inorganic chemistry. Absorption spectra have been used in connection with many problems in inorganic chemistry. It is useful to determine the structure of chlorol. So these are the various application areas of UV spectroscopy. Application areas of UV spectroscopy. So to summarize what we have learned today, you have understood the concept of ultraviolet spectrophotometers. You have understood the concept of ultraviolet spectrophotometer. Just as you know already, what is an ultraviolet spectroscope? You have the range of the ultraviolet region ranges from 200 to 400 nanometers. So in ultraviolet spectroscopy, it is nothing but a type of absorption spectroscopy in which light of ultraviolet region, what is the light of the ultraviolet region? It is ranging from 200 nanometers to 400 nanometers is absorbed by the molecules of the sample, which result in excitation of the electrons from lower energy levels, from ground state to higher energy state. Okay. Then coming to the components of ultraviolet spectrophotometer, the five basic components of ultraviolet spectrophotometer are, we have studied about the sources of the radiation sources. We have studied about the monochromators, the sample compartment, the detector and the recorder. Sample compartment, detector and the recorder. The most commonly used, what was the most commonly used radiant source which is used in ultraviolet region? That is, the tungsten filaments and hydrogen lamps are most widely used. The most widely used are tungsten filaments and halogen lamps. Then we have the monochromator. The monochromator, here it is a diffraction grating is used. Prism or grating can be used as a monochromator, but for ultraviolet radiation we are using a reflection grating. Then we have studied about the filters also. Filters are used to unwanted wavelengths of radiation can be eliminated. You can use glass filters, gelatin filters, or interferometric filters also can be used. Interferometric filters can also be used. Then we have studied about the next component was the sample container. The sample cell holding the sample must be transparent to the wavelength that is to be recorded. So you are using quartz or fused silica is used in the form of cuvettes are used for ultraviolet region. Okay, fused silica or quartz are used for the spectroscopy in the ultraviolet region. Okay, then we have the different types of detectors are used. Most common detector used are the photomultipliers. Photomultipliers or photo tubes are used to detect the radiation, detect the light energy or the radiant energy emitted from the sample. And these photodetectors convert the light energy into corresponding electrical energy, and after sufficient amplification they are passed on to the display system. Then we have studied about the double beam ultraviolet spectrophotometer, where we have the light source or the radiant source which emits ultraviolet light. That radiation, when it is passed through the monochromator, the monochromator produces radiation of specific wavelength, and when this radiation is passed through the sample, the sample will be absorbing the radiation, and the sample will be absorbing the radiation. Okay, this absorbed radiation, when it is made to fall on the when it is made to fall on the photodetector, the detector gives the output, the intensity of the radiation from the reference cell. We have two types of cells in the detector stage. Two photocells are the most commonly used for this purpose. One of the photocell receives the beam from the sample cell, and the second detector receives the beam from the reference cell. The intensity of the radiation from the reference cell is compared with that of the sample cell. This results in generating a pulsating or alternating currents in the photocell. Then we have the amplifier stage. The alternating current that is being generated in the photocell or the photomultiplier cell is transferred to the amplifier. The amplifier is coupled to a small servo motor. Generally, current generated in the photocell is of very low intensity. The main purpose of the amplifier is to amplify the signal many times so that we can get a clear and recordable signals. Most of the time, amplifier is coupled to a pen recorder which is connected to the computer. The computer stores all the data generated and produces a spectrum of the desired compound. So this is the working principle of ultraviolet spectroscope. And we have the we have the applications of, we have studied about the applications. They are used for qualitative analysis, they are used for quantitative analysis of compounds, they are used for detection of impurities. The ultraviolet spectroscopy is used to determine the percentage of various keto and enol forms of forms that are present in tautometric equilibrium. Then they are used in chemical kinetics to study the kinetics of the reactions. It is used to measure the molecular weight, determination of molecular weight of compounds. It is used for analysis of inorganic compounds. It is used for measuring the concentration of the solutions. Okay, it is used to determine the concentration of the compounds in a solution. Then it is used to it is used in inorganic chemistry to solve the problems, many problems that arise in inorganic chemistry, and it is used to determine the structure of the chlorol. So these are the various applications of ultraviolet spectroscopy. These are the various applications of ultraviolet spectroscopy. So with this, I will end my presentation today.